This is a world where money has no value. Here, time is everything. If you want to buy something, you have to give up some time from your life in exchange, and only then can you buy that thing. However, to live a good life in this world, it's also necessary to have time, because when a person reaches the age of 25 years, a 1-year countdown starts on that person's arm. The moment the countdown hits 0, that person dies. The rich had so much time that they could live for 1,000 years. The rich created a separate world for themselves, where they lived a peaceful life. But on the other side, the poor people living in the ghetto city worked day and night to earn time for themselves, or their lives would end. In this poor community lived a young man named Will, who had only 23 hours left on his clock. Will lived with his mother. Since aging stops after 25, his mother, even at 50, looked very young. It was Will's mother's 50th birthday. To celebrate, Will had worked overtime the previous night and brought a bottle of champagne. Seeing this, Will's mom was very happy and told Will she wanted to see her grandchildren. "Why don't you date a girl?" she asked. Will replied, "Who has time for all this?" Will's mom told him, "I have to clear the electricity bill and the bank loan by tomorrow's date, or we might face a fine." She said, "I'm leaving now and will be back tomorrow night after depositing all the bills and bank loans." She added, "I only have 3 days of time. Paying the bills and the loan will consume almost all her remaining time, so you must wait for me at the bus stop tomorrow evening so I can take some time from you before my time runs out." Will agreed to be there on time. Before leaving, Will's mom touched his hand and transferred 30 minutes into his body so Will could buy and eat a good breakfast. After this, they both left for their respective jobs. Will's journey and a new reality on the way, a little girl approached Will. She gave Will a capsule and asked for a little of his time. Will smiled and gave the little girl 5 minutes of his life in the capsule, and she left. Here we learn that people can store their time in a capsule and use or transfer at any time. Will reached the factory for work. Before starting, he went to get coffee, but he saw that the price of everything had doubled. Where coffee used to cost 2 minutes, now its price had doubled to 4 minutes. Here the price of anything could be increased at any time without any announcement. This angered Will. Out of necessity, Will paid 4 minutes of his life for the coffee and got to work. After a day of work, Will went to a bar with his friend at night. Will's friend was an alcoholic, always drunk. Will's friend signaled to him that a man was buying everyone free drinks and had a lot of time. When Will looked at the man, he was surrounded by women. When Will looked at the man's clock, he had 116 years of time. Will immediately realized this man was from Greenwich City because people in Ghetto City typically had a maximum of 2 days of time. Will approached the man and warned him, saying, "You shouldn't be here. There's danger from thieves. They'll kill you and steal your time. Leave quickly." But the man, who introduced himself as Henry, didn't take Will seriously and continued drinking. Suddenly, a gangster named Fortis arrived with his group. Seeing him, everyone rushed out of the bar. These were the city's biggest goons, who forcefully stole people's time. Will's friend tried to pull Will away, but Will refused and hid in a corner to watch. Fortis had come to steal all the rich man's time. Fortis challenged Henry to an arm wrestle, with the loser giving all their time to the winner. This time fight was like arm wrestling, where 2 people held each other's wrist. The time of the person whose wrist went down would rapidly decrease and transfer to the person whose wrist was up. The winner would store all the time from the other person's body, thus killing them. Fortis asked Henry, "Are you ready for this?" Henry replied, "I've had too much to drink, so I need some time. After that, I'm ready for your challenge." Fortis allowed him a few minutes to prepare, sending one of his men with him to ensure he didn't run away. Henry went to the bathroom and started vomiting heavily, as he was very drunk. If he fought Fortis in that state, Henry's loss was guaranteed. Just then Will arrived, killed Fortis's man and took Henry out of the bar to a safe place. Will told Henry, "I warned you that your life was in danger. Why are you deliberately wasting your time?" Henry told Will his name and asked his age. Will said 28. Henry said, "I am 105 years old and I am tired of life. I have enjoyed everything in my life, and now I don't need this life. I don't want to live." Will was astonished and asked, "What are you trying to say?" Henry replied, "It seems you are still unaware of the truth. Have you ever wondered why different time zones were created in this world? Why are the prices of things and taxes in your ghetto time zone increased at any time. Henry revealed, "The inflation is deliberately increased so that the poor keep dying and the rich people in the Greenwich time zone benefit from their deaths. In reality, this whole system is their creation." He continued, "Think about it. People in the Greenwich time zone have thousands of years to live. But here in the ghetto, you people work hard every day just to live. This is because they have forced you to do this. They don't want to give you too much time, so that you are forced to work for them. They force you to spend more and more time by increasing inflation, so that they can live forever with your time. They have gathered every day of their lives from the deaths of the poor. And I absolutely do not want to live a life gained from the death of a poor, helpless person." Hearing all this, Will understood that Henry was a very kind-hearted man. Henry then asked Will, "If you had as much time as I do, what would you do?" Will smiled and said, "First, I would stop constantly checking the clock." At that moment, Will only had 18 hours left. "I look at my clock all the time, before sleeping, after sleeping, while eating, because I'm afraid that my time might run out and I might die." Will said, "My mum works very hard to manage the house. If I had as much time as you, I would buy a good house for my mom in Greenwich City, and we would live happily there." Will then told Henry, "We have to stay here tonight. The danger will pass by morning. Then you can go back to your home." After this, they both slept. A life-altering gift and tragic loss. In the morning, Henry woke up and saw Will still sleeping. He approached Will and transferred all the time he had to Will, leaving only a few minutes for himself. He then went and sat on a bridge. When Will woke up, he saw that Henry was gone. As always, Will checked his clock after waking up. 116 years had been added to Will's clock. His eyes were wide open. He thought he was still dreaming. Just then, Will's eyes fell on a note on the window that read, "Don't waste my time." He understood that Henry had given him all his time. Will then spotted Henry sitting on the edge of a distant bridge. Will quickly ran toward Henry, but it was too late. Henry had only a few seconds left, and a moment later he jerked, died, and fell into the water below the bridge. Will was deeply saddened by Henry's death. Will now had 116 years of life, and realized that if he stayed there, people would think he had killed Henry. Will quickly went to his friend. His friend was shocked to see so much time on Will's hand. Will, for the sake of friendship, gave his friend 10 years of time. Will's friend thanked him sincerely. Will said, "It's not safe for me to stay here now because seeing so much time, anyone might kill me to steal my time. Now I can buy a good house for my mother in Greenwich City and live a safe life there." Will then said goodbye to his friend and left for the bus stop. On the other side, Will's mom, Rachel, boarded the bus to return home after paying all the loans and bills. But then she found out that the bus ticket price had doubled in just one day. Where the ticket used to cost 1 hour, now the price was 2 hours. Will's mum was very worried because she only had 1.5 hours left. She requested the bus driver, saying her son would give him the remaining time at the next stop. But the bus driver flatly refused and said, "If you don't have the time, then walk." Rachel knew the next bus stop was very far. Even if she walked, it would take her 2 hours to reach it. She requested the many passengers on the bus, but no one helped her. The bus then left. Rachel did not have much time left, so she started running on foot toward home. Meanwhile, Will was waiting for his mom at the bus stop with a bouquet of flowers. When the bus reached the stop, several passengers got off, but Will's mom wasn't among them. Will was worried and understood that his mom must be in trouble. He immediately ran off in search of her. Rachel had only a few minutes left. She was knocking on the doors of houses and cars on the road, begging for a little time to borrow, but no one was willing to help her. Will ran for a while and then saw his mother running. Seeing her running, Will understood that she didn't have much time. He stretched out his hand and ran towards her quickly. Rachel had only 10 seconds left. She was also running towards Will with all her might. But just as Rachel reached her son Will, her time ran out and she died. Will was heartbroken. He had planned so much for his mother. He cried loudly. Revenge and the heiress. By the next morning, Henry's dead body had been found by the timekeepers. Timekeepers were like the police in this world. Their job was to stop crime. Timekeeper Officer Raymond thoroughly investigated the spot, but found no clue. Then Raymond noticed the CCTV camera near the bridge. He headed to the CCTV room to check the footage. Meanwhile, Will realized that the rich people in Greenwich were responsible for his mother's death, having made the people of Ghetto City desperate for every second. Will left for Greenwich to take revenge. To enter Greenwich City, Will had to spend 1 year of time. When Will entered Greenwich City and saw the lifestyle of the rich, his eyes widened. People there had so much time that they had forgotten the concept of death. Even the bodyguards of the rich had more than 100 years of time. Will was furious because people in the city he came from had only 24 hours of life. Will checked into an expensive hotel. While eating, a very beautiful girl looked at Will as if she liked him. On the other side, timekeeper Raymond was checking the CCTV footage from the time of Henry's death. He saw Will in the footage. Although the camera had not recorded Henry falling from the bridge, Will was seen standing near the bridge, which made Raymond suspicious. Raymond asked his team to gather information about Will. During the research, the timekeepers found out that a man named Will had spent a lot of time to enter Greenwich City. This confirmed Raymond's suspicion that Will had killed Henry. Raymond immediately left for Greenwich City with his team. In Greenwich City, Will went to a casino where some rich people were playing poker. Will also sat down with them. Seeing a new person, they started laughing at him. But Will was an expert in gambling. This was the best opportunity for him to extract money from the rich. Will played a game of poker with a rich man named Philip, the wealthiest person there, who owned a time bank that lent time to people. Philip's daughter, Sylvia, was also sitting with him. She was the same girl who had been watching Will earlier. When the game began, Will bet all the time of his life. With the power of his mind, he won 1,100 years from Philip. Sylvia, Philip's daughter, was quite impressed by this. She invited Will to a party at her house the next night. The Great Escape. The next evening, Will bought a brand new car and went to Philip's party. During the party, Will and Sylvia started dancing, and Sylvia fell in love with Will. She was about to confess her feelings when timekeeper Raymond arrived with his team and apprehended Will. Sylvia, believing Will was a murderer, was also angry with him. Raymond first stripped Will of all his time, leaving him with only 2 hours. Then he proceeded to arrest Will for Henry's murder. Raymond asked Will why he killed Henry. Will said he didn't kill him. Henry didn't want to live, so he gave Will 116 years and then took his own life. But Raymond didn't believe Will. Will realized Raymond would frame him in Henry's false case and put him in jail for life. So as soon as he got a chance, he killed Raymond's men, freed himself, took their gun, and took Sylvia hostage. Using Sylvia as a shield, Will escaped with her, evading Raymond and his men, and returned to Ghetto City. At this point, Will had very little time left. He asked Sylvia to lend him some time, but Sylvia refused to give him even a second, because she also believed he was Henry's killer. So Will sped up the car toward Ghetto City to borrow time from someone there. In his haste, he didn't notice the barbed wire laid across the road, causing Will's car to crash off a bridge. In the accident, both Will and Sylvia were knocked unconscious. The barbed wire was actually laid by Fortis and his gang. Fortis saw that Sylvia had 10 years of time. They stole all of Sylvia's time and left. Soon Will and Sylvia regained consciousness. Sylvia was distressed when she looked at her arm, as she only had 30 minutes left, and Will also had only a few minutes. Despite this, Will gave Sylvia some of his minutes, making their time equal. Will then took Sylvia to his friend's house, the one he had given 10 years to. When his friend's wife opened the door, she expressed her anger, saying, "The 10 years you gave killed my husband. He spent all the time on alcohol, which led to his death." Will was crestfallen, but now they both had very little time. If they didn't do something quickly, their death was certain. Just then, Will noticed the diamond earrings Sylvia was wearing. By selling them, Will and Sylvia got 2 days of time. The ransom and the revelation, Will took Sylvia to a phone booth. He called Sylvia's father, Philip, and told him that his daughter was safe. Raymond was also with Philip at that moment, and Will knew Raymond was there. Will demanded 10,000 years of time in exchange for Sylvia's release, and told Philip to distribute that time among the poor through the time bank. He gave him until the next morning. Although this amount was nothing for Philip, he did not want to give time to the poor at any cost. Will brought Sylvia to his home, where they waited for the morning. During this time, Sylvia asked Will about his family. Will told her that his mother had died the previous night due to a lack of time. Sylvia felt very bad hearing this, and realized that the poor people here lived in constant fear of death and how hard they had to work to earn a single day's time. The next morning, as soon as the bank opened, Will and Sylvia watched the bank from the window. But the bank did not distribute the time among the poor. Sylvia was very disappointed to see that time held more value than his own daughter to her father. Now Sylvia understood that her father was not just a businessman, but the head of this system. He accumulated his years of life from the deaths of the poor. Seeing Sylvia so distressed, Will decided to send her back home. He took her to the phone booth and told her to call her father for help. Will also gave Sylvia a weapon for self-defense. Sylvia was talking to her father on the phone when timekeeper Raymond quietly arrived and pulled a gun on Will. Raymond was about to shoot Will when Sylvia saw him and, in a panic, shot at Raymond. Will was horrified and rushed to Raymond. The bullet had just grazed Raymond's hand. Raymond was bleeding heavily. Will checked Raymond's clock. Raymond had only 2 hours left. Timekeepers were also only paid 1 day's time as a salary every day. Will realized that by the time Raymond's team arrived, Raymond would have died from excessive blood loss. So Will gave Raymond 2 hours of time and drove away in Raymond's car. Joining forces and the final act by shooting Raymond, Sylvia had also become a criminal. Although Will told Sylvia that she could still get out of all this, her life in Greenwich was like a bird caged. Her father, Philip, had imposed many restrictions on her. But here, she felt a sense of freedom because she was her own master. Sylvia understood that what was happening to the people here was wrong. Now she was with Will in getting justice for the poor. Will and Sylvia started robbing the rich together. Sylvia, who knew Greenwich City inside and out, planned to steal time capsules from the banks in Greenwich City and distribute them among the poor. Sylvia first raided several of her father Philip's banks, because Philip had accumulated all that time from the deaths of the poor. They packed all the time capsules from the vault into a bag and left, distributing them among the poor. After such a massive theft, the government was also fed up with them. So the government placed a 10-year time reward on their heads. Hearing this news, the gangster Forties started hunting for them like dogs. But Will and Sylvia kept changing their hideouts daily, so they couldn't be caught. They were hiding in a hotel. Since they had no shortage of time, they had booked the entire hotel. Fortis arrived outside the hotel in search of them. He grabbed some people and started asking about Will and Sylvia. But those people were greatly indebted to Will and Sylvia, so they were ready to die but refused to reveal Will and Sylvia's location. But when Fortis coerced them, one man, out of fear of death, told Fortis about the hotel where Will and Sylvia were hiding. Fortis immediately rushed there with his gang and captured them both. Now it was impossible for Will and Sylvia to escape. Fortis seated Will at a table and challenged him to a time fight. Will understood that if he refused the challenge, Fortis's gang members would kill him. So he decided to arm wrestle him today. Fortis and Will grasped each other's wrists and the game of death began. Fortis was an expert. He quickly pushed Will's hand down, causing Will's time to rapidly transfer to Fortis. But Will wasn't using any force, as if he was deliberately losing. But just as Will had 3 to 4 seconds of his life left, he unleashed his power and quickly slammed Fortis's hand down. Fortis's eyes widened. He tried to raise his hand with all his might, but he was powerless against Will's strength. Seeing this, Fortis's men were focused on Fortis's clock. Their boss was about to die. Just then, Will seized the opportunity, pulled a gun from his shoe and shot all of Fortis's men in the blink of an eye. If he hadn't done this, they would have killed him. Simultaneously, Fortis's time ran out and he also died. Will and Sylvia quickly fled. During their escape, they saw that the rich had reversed the entire game. The value of all the time Will and Sylvia had distributed among the poor was now worthless, because the rich had increased the inflation rate many times over. Seeing this, Will felt defeated and thought he would never be able to get the poor their rights. He told Sylvia, "It's over now. Even if we distribute 1,000 years among the people, the rich will increase inflation even more, and the people's condition will never improve." Sylvia said, "There must be a way." Will replied, "We have to steal millions of years and give it to these people. Only then can we control inflation." Although this was not easy, Sylvia had a plan. The next morning, when Philip arrived at his office with his bodyguards, Sylvia came there and said she wanted to surrender. All the guards pointed their guns at Sylvia. But then Will, disguised as a guard, arrived from behind. He put a gun to Philip's head and forced him to open the locker. Will and Sylvia stole a time capsule from Philip's locker that contained 10,01,000,000 years of time. Every single year in this capsule had come from the deaths of the poor. Will and Sylvia fled with the time capsule. When Raymond found out, he immediately went after Will and Sylvia. When Raymond looked at the clock on his arm, he had less than an hour of time left. He called the headquarters, asking them to send his salary in a capsule, saying he was running out of time. But before he could transfer the time from the capsule into his body, he spotted Will's car and went after them without transferring the time. If the poor got those 10 lakh years, every person in the ghetto time zone would become immortal, and the entire system created by the rich would be destroyed. Victory and a new beginning, Raymond gave his all to catch Will and Sylvia, but he couldn't stop them. Will and Sylvia evaded Raymond and reached Ghetto City. They handed the time capsule to a small girl. They knew Raymond would come straight after them to Ghetto City, so they left that place and went to a secluded spot. They had distributed millions of years among the people of Ghetto City, making them immortal. But they themselves had very little time left. Unfortunately, Raymond caught them at that moment. Raymond threatened Will, saying, "If you value your life, return all the stolen time." Will showed him the time on his clock. Will and Sylvia had only a few minutes left. Will told Raymond, "Have you forgotten? Remember when you were about to die, I lent you some time. You should be returning the time to me." Hearing this, Raymond remembered that in his haste to catch Will and Sylvia, he hadn't paid attention to his own time. When he looked at his clock, he had only 5 seconds left, which quickly dropped to 0, and Raymond died. Will and Sylvia had escaped Raymond, but they too only had 1 minute each left. Moreover, there was no one in that secluded area to help them. They could clearly see their death approaching. The two hugged each other in despair, and then Will spotted Raymond's car. Will immediately ran towards the car. Reaching the car, he transferred Raymond's salary time into his clock. After that, he started running towards Sylvia to give her time. Sylvia was also running towards Will quickly. Sylvia had only a few seconds left. It was the same moment when Will had lost his mom. Will had lost his mother, but he did not want to lose Sylvia. Will was very close to Sylvia, but just then Sylvia fell into Will's arms. Luckily, Will had held Sylvia's hand at the right moment, saving her life. Thanks to Will and Sylvia, all the people in Ghetto City were now immortal. They no longer needed to work in factories to earn an hour at a time. They all left for Greenwich City to fulfill their dreams, causing the entire system created by the rich to fail. And with this, the story ends.